He said a primary radar return indicated vertical movement intersecting TWA 800. That's what they saw on their screens at Tracon in Westbury. And that is what precipitated the panic in Washington, D.C. That was the first notice. It wasn't the eyewitnesses. It came out of the air traffic control centers in New York that something had happened to this plane. And the seconds before it intersected that airplane, it disappears. And the TWA 800 notation disappears from the screen. The supervisor comes over to my correspondent, and he says, "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I used to do missile tests when I was in the Navy. We saw it all the time." So it wasn't something unknown to him. The next day, he comes back in, and he wants to review the tape. And he goes to the supervisor, "Can I take another look at that tape?" The supervisor says, "No, it's gone. It's been taken. This is a violation of all protocol because tape is supposed to stay there for future adjudication." Now, the only person who has spoken about what happens next in Washington is Richard Clarke, the former anti-terror czar. He's both a liar and a braggart, so it's hard to sort through his information and get at the truth, but he at least spends some time on this. Everyone else who writes about that period of time in that administration is completely silent about the event. Not a word. Even though it was the #1 news story in 1996, and it was, Richard Clarke titles the chapter, "The Almost War of 1996. Clarke, and I think he's telling the truth here, convenes a meeting of his anti-terror group in the Situation Room in the White House at 9 o'clock, a half hour after the crash. I know from Hillary Clinton's logs and from my sources within the White House that the Clintons returned to the White House just about 8:30 after some routine fundraiser nearby. They retreated to the family quarters, and there they stayed for the rest of the night. They did not go down to the Situation Room.